What's going on, everybody? It is the one and only Q here from Retro Q Gaming, and yes, I have done it. You are welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, and first-person shooter console aficionados from the early to mid-2000s. You are welcome. I have done it yet again. Now, what are we talking about here? Well, many people have always said we live in a simulation, we live in a matrix, but no, fam. I have for many years across YouTube, across videos, across streams, across Twitch, across whatever it is, I have always maintained we are living in the Cuman show. Everything that happens to me is by design of our, hell, I hesitate to call them benevolent overlords, but our questionable producers, if you will. And I can't count the amount of times I have just finished playing a game, maybe 15, 16, 20 years after release or whatever it is, and then suddenly, instantly, the next day, a week later, or very shortly after, it gets announced as a new entry in the series for the first time in 2 decades, or a remake, or a remaster, or a modern port, or something like that. It's happened lots of times. I've given lots of examples across all these years, and it's happened yet again. You are welcome. But what are we talking about this time anyway? Well, we are talking about Timesplitters, a great game series, the original 3 games back on the early to mid 2000s across, say, the PS2, the GameCube, and the OG Xbox 180, and we haven't had a proper entry ever since. Now, these were 3 great games originally made by Free Radical, and the problem is, eventually Free Radical got moved on to work on, well, frankly, absolute shite like Haze. Eventually the studio would be renamed, reformed, and pretty much dissolved and become a shadow of its former self and basically not exist anymore. And of course, the Timesplitters IP has been passed around like a used condom, and, well, it's fallen into limbo with no real game or no real anything else happening in any way, shape or form outside of a fan project. However, that is until today. Because Deep Silver, a subsidiary of Koch Media of course are the ones who own the Timesplitters IP at the moment, have confirmed the foundation of a new studio, and it gets better because they have given us a name for the studio, some of the people who are involved, and what it's going to be doing. So as you may expect, Deep Silver is naming this studio Free Radical Design. So that right there is part 1. Part 2 is they're bringing in the founders of the original Free Radical, David Doak and Steve Ellis, aka the guys behind Timesplitters, and they are putting them as the heads of the studio. There's big piece number 2, but it gets even bigger and even better on top of that, because Deep Silver have confirmed that this studio, Free Radical Design, headed up by David Doak and Steve Ellis, are going to be in charge of a new Timesplitters game entering development in the coming months. Now, there it is. There's the confirmation. New studio, key people involved, and a confirmation that a new Timesplitters game is being worked on. Or rather, is about to start being worked on. Now, they've said at the moment, of course, that they're only concentrating on building the studio right now, which is going to be based in Nottingham, just like the original Free Radical was. So don't get ahead of ourselves a little bit here. This game is going to be minimum several years off. Hopefully it only launches for PC and current gen consoles. By the time this comes out in maybe 4 or 5 years, hopefully every single Xbox One and PS4 is in the trash. And please do not even attempt to factor in that god-awful trash console that is the Nintendo bitch. But there we have it. The announcement of a new studio, key people involved, the announcement that they will be starting work on a new Timesplitters entry in the coming months once the studio gets situated. It's only been set up now, they're recruiting more people, they're doing all they need to do, but we have it. Now, of course, the big question remains, will it live up to the hype? Will it live up to the legacy? We've seen over the years now at this point, especially when key people who have a great history are involved, where they finally come back after these massive decade-plus long hiatuses and unfortunately can't recapture the magic that they used to have. Not to mention the modern era and the modern, let's just call it, socio-political climate where you can't make jokes or campy remarks or whatever it is anymore. But we'll see how it goes in probably 5 or 6 years. But I am optimistic in relation to this. I do want to just say one more thing in relation to all of this. Clearly, this was all done because I just recently streamed all 3 Timesplitters games. So naturally, because this is the Cumin Show, you're welcome. Now, I have a good idea of what I'll get remade next.